Hello everyone, this is Kiereek here, and we're doing our review of Cities XL Platinum. I'm being specific because there are a couple different versions, Cities XL 2011, 2012, and Platinum is the newest one. It fixes things up a bit. What is it? Well, as you saw in my gameplay video, it's a city building sim. And I'm going to make that also very specific, sim, not a game so much as I would say a sim. What does that mean? It's not so much as fun as it is for an accurate representation of what building a city and managing a city would be like. What do you do in it? You build huge cities. No brainer. And it is good at that. There's working trade, there's transit, and there's a supply and demand that really does make it feel like you are in charge, and if you aren't managing your resources carefully to get the things you need, get rid of the things you have too much of, that things will fall apart. Really quickly, its pros. It is pretty beautiful on a large scale. From far away, you zoom out, you see your city. It's a thing of glory. You can be proud of it. You zoom in, and the details start to get a little bit more choppy. They're still pretty nice, and considering the scale of the game, I think it's an achievement that they managed to do even that. Like, if you do turn on all the options, you can see the drivers in the cars. You can see all the little cars going around, you see people walking. You know, there's a lot of attention put into that, and it does deserve some credit. Now, it is a game that keeps you playing. That means you do get stuck in it, you can't get out. It's like, oh my god, I just gotta do one more thing. Please, please, please. I'm gonna build this little residential area. Oh, now I need to go and build more factories. Oh, but my people, the traffic is really bad. I should fix this road. And you keep doing this on and on and on until you realize it's like 3 in the morning, which is a good quality for a game. You want something that's going to keep you interested. There's so many choices in city design. You play some games, like I remember playing SimCity 2000 back in the day, and that was a great freaking game. But you have to admit that it was basically a grid-based system. You placed your buildings, and it was a Western style. You know, if you're looking from top down, it was a grid. You place your roads in square-like patterns, and that was the most efficient way of doing things, and that's really what the engine allowed. In this, you can place curved roads, you can do weird angles to make it look like a naturally growing city. I'm talking like Paris, or like Italian cities. Even comes with, at least the version I have, packs. So if I want to do Asian buildings pack, there's an Asian buildings pack. There's a beach buildings pack. I can focus on that kind of aesthetic look, and it has a lot of options that way. I don't have to build the same city every time. In fact, it's better that I don't, because when we go back to the trade system, I want a city that specializes in oil. Well, maybe they do have lots of oil, but I'm going to need to trade it with other cities that don't have as much oil for 2 reasons. 1, so that I can pay for the expenses of having the oil companies, and 2, so my other cities can have cheaper fuel, and that way the people don't complain about fuel being so expensive. Now, the design is fun, but it can be difficult. And although that might sound like a negative, it's actually kind of a positive in this case. The difficulty is there, and I laughed about it a bit in the gameplay video, but when you do get it, it is rewarding. You know, if you have your city, everything's functioning perfectly, you're making money, people are moving in, and nothing is going to hell, it feels like you've done a good job, especially because I don't think it's an easy feat. Like, for me at least, I have a hard time making sure everything balances out. And I used to do financial things, and trust me, it's harder than the real deal, in my opinion. At first, at least. This is where we started to get into the gripes I have with this game. It does feel good at first. And the same kind of thing that keeps you going and keeps you interested is the same kind of thing that brings this game down. So I call it the never-ending loop. And what that basically amounts to is you're playing the game, your people complain that there aren't enough houses to move into, so you build them houses. Then they complain that there's no jobs for them, so you build them jobs. Then they complain there's nowhere to move into. And amongst these complaints, you're getting things like more leisure please, traffic's really bad, and you basically end up building jobs, building houses, building jobs, building houses. Oh, I need more electricity, building jobs, building houses. It never ends. There is no winning, and that it hurts, because it's like after a while you do start to get a little bit bored. And I talked about the economy. It's realistic. It's a sim, not a game. And the economy kind of shows that. It's too much for me to consider it a true game. A game is something I can go in, I have fun, it's simple and great. The economy here is a little much for that, and so that's why I classify it as a sim. It's maybe a little bit too much for a lot of people because you really need to get your head wrapped around it. Like, I've played Europa Universalis 3 and 4 and stuff like that, and some of the other games, Victoria 2, and they also have complex systems, but I feel like they handled it better. This game, I feel like, didn't really explain it to me too much. Oh, for like my example here, when we were playing the gameplay, I built all those oil refineries. Nobody told me that it was going to cost me a ton of money to have them running, but that's all right, I guess, in the long run. Even though I lost money, I ended up cheating my way out of it. But there really wasn't any info that told me that was going to happen, and that leads me into my next problem. When you highlight the buildings, you'll see in the gameplay, and I'll show you again here in the review, I hover my cursor over the buildings, and it doesn't really tell me much. I don't even think it tells me the price, if I remember correctly, and that's kind of a big deal, because when you're working in a game that requires you to be more exact in terms of supply and demand, how much money you're spending, how much money things cost, your budget, I need to have these details, otherwise it's not going to succeed. They say knowing is half the battle, and knowledge is power, blah blah blah. The point is, I can't get that knowledge. Maybe there's a way and I'm not seeing it, but it's not easily accessible, and that's a thumbs down for me. There's a little bit of finicky road placement for me. I talked about design choices being fun, but you'll know, having played this game, if you do decide to do non-grid based systems, or even grid based systems that maybe already have buildings in them and you're trying to build a grid around that, the game does not handle road obstructions and road angles very easily. So if I'm building a grid and it wants to place a road horizontally across that grid, and there happens to be a hospital there, it doesn't seem to understand just to move the road a little bit. It's just like, nope, can't happen, too bad, sorry. And sometimes it will try to place roads at weird angles that no self-respecting city builder would ever do. So yeah, it's not the greatest thing. Hopefully in future games, if there are future games, they can adjust that a bit, make it a little more free-flowing. Alright, and the final thing on the agenda here is the lag. You've seen it, I complained about it, and if you've played the game, you know, even when your city's pretty small, there's a considerable lag. And I don't just mean if you don't have a good computer, the game will lag. I mean, it doesn't matter what you're running. The game is limited. I believe I read it's limited to one core. It might not be correct, but it feels like it. And you start building your city up and up and up, and especially when you're building metros, transit, other big projects, it strains and it lags. I was playing with like 2 frames per second at certain points in time, and that is unplayable. There is no excuse for that. It hurts the game, it hurts the gameplay, it hurts the enjoyability. I don't want to sit around trying to stumble through it when I can only see what happens as it updates, what is it, two times per second or something like that. It makes it really hard. And along with that is the UI. When you do click the UI and there's that lag, it really messes you up because it's not intuitive to begin with. Utilities, and to me, goes with like city services and things like that. Like water is like a city service, and I had a hard time finding these things. I had a hard time finding the monuments, and when I built the monuments, I didn't know how to build them because there was no instruction. And when combined with having to go back and forth in this UI, when you consider the lag is there is a lot of frustration that's going to go down. There's no way around it. You will be lagging, it's going to hurt your experience, and the UI compounds this problem. Alright, finally, the last thing here, we got to talk about score. So I break my score up into 5 components. Now these 5 components add up to a total of 10. The first component is gameplay. It's worth 3 points total, and it includes things like how it feels, the handling, is it fun, and is it smooth, well put together, you know what I mean? Am I stumbling through menus and stuff like that, or is it nice and intuitive? and feels like I'm actually controlling it. If there's gameplay lag or controller lag, that hurts that kind of score. Second category is addiction. Do I want to keep playing this all night? Do I play this until I've forgotten what time it was? I remember Call of Duty 4, I had this problem with addiction. I would play the game and be like, oh my god, holy shit, I played this until 2 a.m. and you didn't even know you were doing it. That kind of addiction will get you a high score in that category. Addiction is worth a total of 2 points. Next one is reliability. Does the game crash or does it run smoothly? Can I trust that things are going to work out the same every time, or is it buggy and glitchy and sometimes going to end up upside down? A bad example of reliability, Fallout New Vegas. Being made by Bethesda, sometimes you jump on tables and stuff like that, the game flips out and physics hit the roof. That is a bad example of reliability. If things don't crash and everything is consistent, you can get a decent score in reliability. And by decent score, I mean for a total of 1 point. Fourth thing, atmosphere. This can encompass things like audio, music, graphics, a little bit of storytelling and stuff like that too. Although not necessary, because not all games do include story, nor should they. But it doesn't necessarily mean high quality audio and graphics. I don't care if it's Crysis. That doesn't necessarily mean it's going to get a good score. If you've seen games like Needhog, that has a unique pixely graphics. It's not beautiful, but it fits the game, and it works with what it is. Sonic the Hedgehog, the old ones, those pixelated graphics were really good. I'm looking for attention to detail. Does it fit? Or did they totally leave out all the textures on the rocks because they're lazy as balls? That's going to get them a bad score. If it looks great and appropriate, then it'll give them a good score. Atmosphere is out of 2 points. Finally, we have replay value. This is very simple. Is it fun to play again and again and again? Are there things that are going to bring me back into the game and keep playing it? Dark Souls 1. I must have played that game for hundreds of hours. I beat the game more times than I can count. That's a good replay value. What's not a good replay value? When I play the game once, I beat it and I never want to pick it up again. Or even worse, I play the game once and I hate it. There's nothing to keep me playing. Alright, now that we've defined our categories in score, let's talk about Cities XL Platinum. In terms of gameplay, I gave it a 1.3 out of 3. Why? I said lag was going to hurt gameplay. It did. The other thing that hurts gameplay is me having to do the same thing over and over, and the clunkiness of it all. It is a good game in the sense that it's fun to play and you can enjoy it, but it's not smooth and it can be repetitive. For addiction, I gave it 1.6. It is addictive. I said it's repetitive, but apparently that's a working formula because you can be sitting there working on that for a long time and not realize where your night has gone. Many of my cities, I really don't like them, but at the same time, I don't understand how I spent so much time building them up. So it won in that category, 1.6. Reliability, I have no gripes against it. Sure, it lagged a little bit, but that doesn't really hurt its chances here. It did never crash, and nothing unexpected code-wise ever happened. There were things I didn't expect because I didn't understand, but nothing was ever turned on its head. Atmosphere, out of 2, I give it a 1.2. The game has a very beautiful look to it. I think the style fits the kind of game it is. I don't think, however, there's much in terms of the design. So what I mean by that is the graphics are good. Buildings look nice, grass looks nice, water looks nice, all that kind of stuff, great. But the menu, it looks like it was made in Java or something. It looks like something I can make in Java, which is not saying much. Same with the UI. And as far as the music and sound effects go, they weren't anything to really write home about, so I'm going to give them a pass. That's 1.2 out of 2 for atmosphere. Finally, replay value. Only 1 out of 2 in this case. It can be replayed a lot. You can build tons of cities. There's always more to do. But, like I mentioned before, Eventually you do get tired of doing the same thing over and over, and in a way, many of your cities will be the same things over and over. They all have the same needs, they all have the same complaints, and a lot of times, unfortunately, you have to cater to that. Even if you are set on building a wildly different city, you do have to listen to your people because you're a good mayor. Let's face it, you're a good mayor. For those of you keeping track, that means Cities XL Platinum gets a total of 6.1 out of 10. So above average, assuming 5 is average. I recommend you go play it. It's not necessarily a keeper, but if you catch it on sale, I do recommend you take a look, have some fun, build some cities, and then get frustrated and leave. Thanks for watching, guys. This is the first review section in the review and release series. Next up, I'm not too sure what I have coming. Possibly Civ 5, possibly Far Cry or something else like that. Anyhow, take it easy. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys again soon.